Hi guys, welcome to Module 4 of Mindset Mastery. Thanks for being here and joining me. And in this video, we are tackling a topic that I believe has become one of the most destructive parts of our society. So we're specifically looking at social media and the way that has made people compare themselves more than ever on a greater scale than ever. So the question of today's video is, why do we compare ourselves? Now, firstly, what we have to understand about our own psychology as human beings is that we are mammals, which means we are a herd-based species. Now, when we see the herds of animals or mammals, going across the plains, and you see the lion coming out and attacking that single gazelle, that single wildebeest, stay with me on this thought. They have safety within the herd. They all pack together because there's less chance of one of them to get eaten by a predator. Now, very instinctually, we are wired in the same way, except we have got a whole host of different stresses and pressures, and we also have this thing called emotion in the life as a human being. So we're subjected to these pressures, these stresses, and these emotions, and ultimately, that forces us to compare ourselves. Now, this is a natural instinctive trait developed within mammals as a survival mechanism. But in our modern day society, especially given the things that we see now and the actual prevalence that we have to see so much via social media platforms like, we don't need to name them, but we know which ones they are. This really destabilizes people. Now, there's no doubt that this type of comparison has been going on for many, many years and centuries. It's just changed mediums. Previously it was newspapers, and then it was magazines, and now we have social media platforms. Now, the issue with social media is the instant access that we have, and also just the amount that we're able to see. Now, of course, the images that we are seeing on social media often are of people that are achieving wild success, and they look a certain way, they act a certain way, they have certain types of possessions, they have certain status, they have certain friendship groups. And I know the feeling because I've been in that state myself where I've been in scroll mode, and you can't help but not feel like, what am I doing wrong with my life? Like, why don't I have these things? Now, this reinforced imagery just kind of creates this gap, which previously wasn't there. Like, I remember as a 20-year-old young man that I would just go and do things for myself purely because I love doing things for myself. I'd go fish, and I would go and just go for a run or go for a hike. And I didn't need to put those things up on social media seeking validation. Now, as this world has evolved and we've kind of almost stepped into a digital age, I found myself walking into that trap. But I also really experienced the dissatisfaction of feeling like I wasn't doing good enough with my life, and that I wasn't achieving the things that I should achieve. And this came from my own personal expectations. Now, I'm not sure about you, but I certainly feel like we live in a society now where success is almost an expectation for so many people. And we see, on these social media platforms, people having wild success, but we don't see the amount of work that's going in behind the background. So when it comes to expectations, what we have to understand is it comes from two areas. It comes from our own personal story that is crafted through our developmental phases as we've learned about, and then it also comes from our environment. Now, there's always going to be expectations depending on your identity, the way that you've been shaped, and the beliefs that you've developed about yourself. Some people are just go-getters, they're high achievers, and that's the way they're wired. And they have those level of expectations, and that's fine. And there's some people who just want to go with the flow, and that's fine as well. What I'm talking about mainly though is the environmental expectations, especially in this digital age. Now, as we're living in this new digital age and people have more and more access to seeing the things that they don't have, it is creating a high level of expectation within all different levels of society. Now, our expectations that come on our life come from two areas. They come from our own personal story and also our environment. Now, our story, the way that's shaped us and the way we've developed over the course of our life, of course there's going to be natural expectations because that's how our identity has formed. Some people are high achievers, they're go-getters, and that's the expectations they place on their life. Other people just want to go with the flow, and that's fine. But what I'm really concerned with, and specifically want to talk about, is the environmental expectations that come largely from social media. Now, this can create what is called destination disease. And what I mean by this is, if I have, I will feel. Now, we're talking about if I have car, if I have house, if I have a pretty partner and an amazing relationship, if I travel the world and post it all over social media, I will feel happy, content, fulfilled, joyful about myself. If I have lots of money, I will feel good about myself. I will feel happy and I won't have problems. Well, a lot of people go down this path only to realize that the destinations they put on their life were not in fact what they wanted at all. They had conformed, and due to comparison, they'd kind of taken on the goals and the ideals of other people. And this is what's happening when so many people are viewing the same channels, the same social media platforms, and absorbing the same types of content. You get a lot of people that are doing the same things, dressing the same, looking the same, because we're mammals and there's safety in the herd. Does that make sense? So for you, what I want you to understand is this is fine. It's amazing to have role models and people that you aspire to be like, but you don't want to trade who you are to be like someone else. You are amazing and uniquely you. You have special gifts and talents. You have your own dreams, aspirations, and desires. Pursue those, but get clarity on what they are for you. Don't let go of that for you. Don't buy into destinations that have been sold to you by other people and then get to that point and then feel dissatisfied and unhappy. You don't want to have to go through that experience, although that's the kind of hard fall that most people need to have. Now, why does this happen? Well, it happens because social can really degrade our human value or our self-worth. So when we're talking about our self-worth, as in the value that we feel we have as a human being, this is what we're acknowledging. But social can degrade that because when we're living in that state of comparison, what we're saying is, I am not this. This is what is successful and I am not that. Does that make sense? So people can lose their identity. They can feel like they're not very valuable. So it's very easy to buy into some of these destinations. Now, the thing that what we must understand is that your self-worth or your human value is 100% determined by who you are. It's about your internal character. It's about what you're like. It's about the special things about you, the way you care for other people, the way that you interact with your family and your friends, the goals that you have, and your dreams and the human side of you. That's really where your self-worth is at. It's not what you have, not at all. And I believe that if people can see their own value, they can see the greatness within themselves, then they will stop comparing themselves and basically harming themselves and placing these false expectations and destinations on their life in the first place. So what's the solution? Well, I'll tell you what I do in terms of my relationship with social media. Now, at times, I will admit, my relationship with social media has been toxic. It has controlled me, but I'm really proud to say right now that I control my relationship with social media. And I want you to think of this in a different way. I want you to think of it like you're in a house and you have all of the windows open and all of the doors open. And anyone can walk in when they want and they can just tell you what they think. They can just share their opinion. Well, here's the house that I'm living in. I'm inside my house, but the windows are firmly closed. The doors are locked shut. And the opinions that get into my circle are firmly from those who I trust and from those who I aspire to be or who are inspiring me, motivating me. And those are a very limited amount of people who I've carefully selected because I know the path that I want to walk in. Now, the danger with social media is that we're just letting all of these opinions infiltrate our identity and the way we think. So eventually, our thoughts are not even our own. So for me personally, I don't use Instagram anymore. I deactivated that because I found for me, that was the number one place where I felt this level of dissatisfaction. I still continue to use Facebook purely for business and for telling my personal story. And in terms of Snapchat, TikTok, I have absolutely got no time for them. Like, it is just, to me, complete time wasting, meaningless activity that I could be investing in other areas of my life to help me perform at my best. So if you're someone who's struggling with your self-worth and your self-esteem, and you always tend to compare yourself on social media, my recommendation would be to go through a fasting period. Try a week and just see how you feel. And if you have a positive experience, maybe you want to lengthen it out to 30 days. For me, that's how I started. I tried to quit Instagram many times and I always kept coming back to it. But now it's been a very, very long time and there's really no need for me to go back on the platform because my life is so much better without it. So as I said, this is just my experience and I'm not here to impress my experience. This is just what I've tried and what I've tested. But what I love most about my life right now is that I've returned back to the simplicity that I had before social media. I feel the way I felt as a young 20-year-old man, finding my way in life, enjoying my hobbies, and pursuing my passions. So thanks for watching this video. I really hope it has helped you, and I will see you in Module 5.